We're back. Welcome into this edition of the Milwaukee Bucks on Tap podcast. Corey Moen, Evan Bernd. Evan, how are we doing?
Honestly, not as bad, not as bad as I expected to be. I feel like knowing that this whole trade thing was coming, I feel a lot more mentally prepared for it than I would have if it was, just kind of out of the blue.
Yeah, so if you guys obviously don't know what Evan's talking about, the long-awaited rumors of a potential Giannis trade came to fruition yesterday, or on late Monday night, excuse me, as the Bucks dealt Giannis Antetokounmpo to the Miami Heat for Tyler Hero, Khalil Ware, Jaime Jaquez Jr. A couple first round, there was like a pick swap in there. The Bucks also got the 13th overall pick, which they used this to select Nate.
Yeah, and then Kasparis, I don't know how to pronounce his last name yet.
Yeah, and we're gonna get there. And I mean, look, there was only one other team in contention. It was the Boston Celtics.
Yep.
And it sounds like the Boston Celtics deal for Giannis would have been Jaylen Brown and just 2 first-round picks. And, Jimmy Haslam was the driving force behind that deal. And the reason why we didn't go with Boston's deal is because he was like, look, I don't want him to leave in a year. And they also wanted another young player attached to that. So whether it was Bailey Shireman, whether it was Hugo Gonzalez, that's what I would have taken for Boston to get Giannis. But unfortunately, they were hell-bent on just dealing away with Jaylen Brown. And the Bucks were like, no, we can't.
No.
Like, let's not do that. And here's the other thing that I read. There's a chance Tyler Hero could get rerouted to somewhere different because he's in a contract year. And, if he wants the max, then why would Milwaukee pay him that? He hasn't always been healthy. He could shoot, but I was reading Detroit could be a good landing spot for Tyler Hero if Milwaukee decides to go that route. And as I read yesterday, discussions are active to see if they could find a deal for Tyler Hero. Like, there is interest to maybe trading him, but they would also be fine keeping him. So I guess, Evan, like, when the news first broke, what was your initial reaction?
It was really just like a sigh of like, all right, something new is happening now. And I was a little, I think, kind of confused on which team was going to be picked for the trade. I know I was kind of big on the Celtics trade before I realized that they took out some of like their younger guys too in the trade, like Hugo Gonzalez, etc. Just because if you were able to trade for a Finals MVP, I feel like you got to kind of maybe take that deal. But I think being able to get the Heat's 13th pick, just in general, I feel like was already a next step up in the trade process. And then just honestly really being able to get, outside of Tyler Hero, you're getting 2 more picks and a couple of their starter and bench role players. I feel like it was kind of a no-brainer at that point. But no, it was just kind of it sucks kind of moment, but more like a sigh of relief knowing that all this nonsense is over after the past 5 or 6 years, I feel like, at least, of the Giannis talks. It does suck that his 2 wish list teams were teams who have continuously knocked us out of the playoffs within the last 5-ish years, honestly, since the finals. So that kind of sucks, kind of knowing that he wanted to join teams that, have given us trouble. But I think kind of the big thing outside of the whole Heat Celtics is honestly the Heat. I feel like he's not going to contend there unless they do something else. Again, I still feel like whether they get another guy or not, it's not going to just all of a sudden bump them up into being the East favorite. So that's kind of a sigh of relief. Not that I'm preying on him not winning, but I think it's more of a fact that they were able to trade him to a team again. Not going to contend. anything like that, I feel like it doesn't really shift as much. So I was just kind of confused on the whole of he wants to win somewhere else, but then his wish list is a team who really isn't in the point of winning and hasn't really been in a while. Obviously, they've made the finals a few times, but have not produced well in the finals when they were there. But no, just kind of again, just a sigh of relief. It sucks, but just being able to figure out, who's going to be like that next guy in the franchise and just kind of go from there. So it's, it sucks, but at the end of the day, if you're a true Bucks fan, like it's exciting to see kind of who the new guys are going to be and just being able to kind of see that development, new coach who develops young players well. So just kind of being able to see the young guys playing, and just watch the rebuild and just kind of go from there.
Yeah, because really ever since we've started this podcast, it's been compete for championships.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's kind of like, and again, I think sometimes as a fan, you reach it where you kind of reach the point where you can kind of see the end, the title contention window come to an end a little bit. And I honestly think really within the last couple of years, you could kind of see it that, okay, Milwaukee is really not in contention to win like a championship. And I think once Doc Rivers was hired, then it's like, they're not. They're definitely not winning. The other piece of the trade that nobody's really talking about is Bobby Portis. And everybody's like, oh, Bobby Portis, great sixth man. I was like, look, I will miss Bobby Portis. I'm going to miss his attitude in Milwaukee every day. But, I mean, let's be honest here. Bobby Portis is the most maddeningly inconsistent player to play for the Bucks. You watch a Bobby Portis game, can he shoot from the outside? Sure. Having a knockdown shooter can shoot three. But when he's in on the second unit, when he's in the game, he's going to give up a lot of offensive rebounds.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a good defender. All right, we can all see that. I've saw some people yesterday say, like the only person who thought that the Heat are like the top 2 or 3 seeds in the East is Magic Johnson. And I got to be honest, Magic Johnson was the greatest players of all time. I got to really wonder how much basketball he actually watches, because the Heat really had to gut their roster to get Giannis. And ESPN's trying to gas it up. Oh, my God. It's Andrew Wiggins, and Bam Adebayo, Giannis, Davion Mitchell. I was like, that's a top 6 seed in the East at the very best. They're a playoff team because it's the Eastern Conference. So with the outside, will be a playoff team. But let's not lie here. They're not one of the favorites. I don't consider them one of the favorites.
No, not at all.
Like, okay, the Celtics and the Knicks are still better than the Heat. Like, I know the Bucks aren't going to be good next year. I do think with Taylor Jenkins, though, they will overachieve.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
But my God, come on. That's still I like the Heat. I think they got a great support system around Giannis. But I mean, come on. That roster, really? And, Evan, this is why really nobody wants to trade for a superstar, because this is the kind of stuff you have to do. You have to trade half your players to get him. Okay, everybody thinks, that's why there was really no market for Giannis, because every team knew, okay, we're going to have to gut our roster to get him. And the Bucks are going to be asking for damn near everything to trade. That's
respectfully too.
Like that's why he didn't get traded to the Western Conference, because there was no interest. The Timberwolves until they traded away Julius Randle, you would have thought that there was some interest there. But once they traded away, it's like, okay, we're done. So that was basically the Celtics and the Heat. It was the same thing with Kevin Durant a few years ago when he got traded to the Suns. It was there's no, I don't think there was 20 teams that were lining up to get Kevin Durant, because you gotta gut your roster to hopefully win a title within the next 3 to 4 years. And look, I saw Kendrick Perkins say this yesterday that, Giannis will never win another championship as a number one option. I'm not rooting against Giannis. Do I want to see him all the success of the world and stuff like that? Sure. Do I think it's going to be a bit of a culture shock for him? I mean, yeah. He goes from Greece to Milwaukee, now he's going to Miami. And you got to think about this. Like, he's got to move his entire family down there. Okay, so now his kids, like, were born in Milwaukee, but now they're going to live in Miami. And, I think that him and Pat Riley will get along well because Giannis has that insane workman-like mentality. And, the Heat, that's the kind of players they like to get, whether it's been Norman Powell, whether it's been Jimmy Butler. They've had those tough, gritty guys. Bobby Porter, same thing. So I think he's going to fit in fine with the Heat. You just kind of wonder about, and everybody worries about the spacing. It's like, dude, it's Bam Adebayo and Giannis.
Yeah, you're going to figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's like, oh, the space is going to stop. I'm like, dude, first of all, Evan, that's the only time people will bring that up in the offseason. Nobody ever talks about spacing. Like when the regular season happens, it's only an off-season issue. Oh, those two, you can't even shoot threes. How are they gonna? It's like, excuse me, you don't think Bam Adebayo and Giannis are gonna figure it out? People always that's what makes me laugh. Is people are just like, oh, the space is gonna be messed up. I'm like, dude, nobody talks about that when these NBA games are going on. So that's the. That's the only funny thing to me. I don't know. And then I saw Ryan Russillo say this wasn't a good trade because the Bucks essentially got a lot of mid guys. And I mean, we'll just have to see what happens. This is going to be a lengthy honestly,
averaging 15, 5, and 4 on 50% shooting and 11 and 9 and 20 and 4 is mid. All right.
Yeah, I mean, again, okay, getting Jaylen Brown would have been good for a year, but then he would have. But then he's like, I'm not.
Yeah, then he would have been gone.
I'm not staying in Milwaukee. Are you kidding me? But now you kind of have to wonder how the Celtics relationship is with Jaylen Brown because, it's like, dude, you were like, the Boston was like dangling the cherry essentially to try to get to. Use me as trade bait, and all of a sudden you think we're going to be good? It's like, I'm sure he's going to get over it, but still, that's kind of a hard pill to swallow.
Mm-hmm.
But my reaction, I mean, I was like, I think I knew as soon as that Instagram post went up, I kind of had an inkling something would happen. And I wasn't sad. I kind of saw what other people's opinions were, which was like, this was probably the best deal Milwaukee could have gotten.
Mm-hmm.
Well, could they have traded him at the deadline? Sure. I still think, though, that in their heart of hearts, I think Milwaukee it's not easy, by the way, to part with your franchise piece. So all these prognosticators being like, they screwed themselves. They got dealt him earlier. Dude, do you have any idea how hard it is? You don't just part with your franchise piece. This was always going to be in the offseason. All right. They didn't want to do what the Dallas Mavericks did, which was like pull the wool over everyone's eyes and trade when they traded Luka. They wanted to do right by Giannis. They did. And I mean, I'm seeing a lot of questions about like, well, where's Thanasis and Alex going to go? And I was like, you know what? Giannis had a pretty good setup because he could ask the team to sign his brothers. I don't know if he's going to have that same type of leeway.
Milwaukee, Miami.
Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra don't play. So Giannis, I don't think is going to be able to ask to get Thanasis or Alex on the team. I just don't think that's going to happen.
No.
That's not usually the way they do business. Usually players don't get to dictate what players are on. So that would be but Thanasis is probably not going to be in Milwaukee next year, so I can promise you that. That would be kind of.
No, they've already waived him, I think.
Oh, shoot, yeah. See, so, yeah, he's not going to be there. And, I think that it's just going to be, it's going to be interesting. But I do think Taylor Jenkins is going to have us punching above our weight so to speak. But with the Giannis trade, Evan, the Bucks are refocusing their efforts to the draft. So they selected Arizona guard Braden Burries with the 10th overall pick, and then with the 13th overall selection, they selected Nate. Okay, Ament.
Yeah.
Ament. Ament. Okay. Nate Ament from Tennessee. Nate Ament, I feel like was always going to go to Milwaukee for the most part because Jimmy Haslam is like a huge donor for like Tennessee. So he's like doing them a solid by getting him. But also, like, again, if he turns out to be a good player, who cares? Like, it's really hard to prognosticate this stuff of how each guy's going to be. So let's start off with the pick of Braden Burries. What is your view of that selection?
It was one of those things where it's like there wasn't a specific position I feel like they're like in dire need of. You have a couple guards now. Obviously, with the trade too, you've gotten a few more in Jaquez and Tyler Hero, but I feel like this was a solid pickup realistically because he's a good two-way defender or two-way player, able to defend and then obviously score as well. He shot almost 50% his freshman year and average 16 a game. But being able to play defense a lot more and being able to pressure a lot of the players, I feel like is what they were missing with their lack of 3-point defense. 3-point defense, and as soon as they get into the paint, it just felt like it was game over. So I feel like kind of pairing him up with AJ Green will help a lot with that 3-point to kind of mid-range defense. And then obviously he's still able to attack the paint as well. I'm not a huge college basketball fan outside of the local teams, but being able to research, he seems like he's able to attack the rim quite well. Great 3-point shooter, again, shooting close to 40%. Solid free throw shooter as well. I just feel like with his speed and quickness and then being able to still defend, I feel like it was a good solid choice for who was out there, and I feel like who kind of fits their needs as well. So I feel like he's going to pair, again, really well with Rollins and AJ Green. And then obviously getting to Nate soon. But no, I feel like with Taylor Jenkins now and getting these younger guys, I feel like they're going to be able to mesh a lot better with the whole new play style that the Bucks are going to have under Taylor Jenkins.
Yeah, and hopefully like a little more up tempo. I think that's why you get a guy like that, because you want to play quick, fast, all that good stuff. I was reading this thing from Sam Vici in which he said that I don't know if I see a scenario in which Burries is not successful in the NBA. I just think he's a very quick guy. He can shoot, and I mean, Arizona too. They've gotten a lot of those like one and done guys, and they've, for the most part, those players play extremely well. And Tommy Lloyd's system, like you said, about like I think 40% from three, and I mean, I just hope he can. I hope he gets regular playing time. I hope he's not going to be one of those things where, well, he's a first-year player, so we're not going to give him as many minutes. And I hope that Taylor Jenkins gives him the opportunity to play and showcase what he's got, because that was a confusing thing with Doc Rivers is you had a lot of young guys and you just never just gave him an opportunity. And I think in this first year, especially in the first year of this rebuild, it's like you want to give guys as much of an opportunity as possible.
Correct.
So,
yeah, and I think the big thing is don't know what's going to happen with Gary Trent or Kevin Porter Jr. or some of those guys too, who are, in that player option or team option as well. So who knows? But no, I feel like it's definitely going to be a good fit for this rebuild and just kind of, a few seasons ahead as they're slowly starting to solidify themselves again.
Yeah, and like they have to. I feel like for them, they have to go like with a full-on youth movement. So just having Kyle Kuzma and Miles Turner there is kind of confusing a little bit because you want. So Miles Turner was only there because you thought he was going to give you a chance to compete in the East, and now that Giannis isn't there, that's just
he's just here.
Now that contract just feels very bad, like kind of a black hole. And Kyle Kuzma, like I don't think they re-signed him to anything.
No, I thought he was going to get traded.
Yeah, and he's still here, and I don't even think he played much. I'm trying to remember if he played as much toward the end of the year last year.
He wasn't bad either, and he's still averaged, his typical 15-ish points, and it wasn't bad, but again, if you're going rebuild now, I feel like with some of the guys we have, it's better to just dump them.
And well, I heard with Miles Turner that the Raptors could show some interest in him. So, that's going to be interesting to see what they're going to do with some of these veteran guys on the roster, because I know you need some veterans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Gary Trent, his situation was kind of weird because he started off in the rotation. Then he struggled shooting. They removed him from the rotation. And then by the end, he was back in the rotation. So that was kind of a weird-ish situation. So, with just some of the veteran guys, like I said, I think they should think about making some moves here. And I think John Horst will. I think he'd maybe get some more draft picks. But like I said, they got Braden Burries yesterday, and then with the 13th overall selection, as I just mentioned, they got Nate Ament from Tennessee. I guess, what was your initial reaction for that deal?
Again, doing my very quick research, I know some people weren't too thrilled with this pick. I know they liked it better at the 13th rather than the 10th pick. I think the big thing for him is that he's still kind of like a project player where they're still trying to figure out like a good role for him. But again, he was still second team SEC all-team freshman. He's 19 years old. So again, you got this young guy. I know a lot of people wanted the guy who went next, Steinbach from UConn. I know with him being 7 foot, leading the league or leading college basketball and rebounds and everything like that. But I think getting Ament, I know he's one of those taller guys who can still handle the ball well. And I feel like that's going to be kind of something they want. Very similar to the Giannis play style where, he's a taller guy who can still play or bring the ball up. Not that I feel like they're going to use him in that way. But, still able to shoot threes, still able to attack the paint as well. And, you're getting a guy who's close to 7 feet as well as a good forward kind of in this rebuild. So, again, I think with Taylor Jenkins, now, again, if this would have been a Doc Rivers pick, he would have been off the team in 2 years. But I feel like with Taylor Jenkins and his younger player development, again, I feel like he's going to just be a great under the radar pick as well, or just being able to pan out better than I think people first kind of saw what he might be able to do. But no, again, I still feel like you're getting a decent forward for this rebuild. And again, someone who's able to attack the paint still, super long, super quick, still has a great 3-point shot and being able to, have that high release. But yeah, I know I don't hate these 2 picks. And again, I feel like with the rebuild coming, I feel like they're going to be great additions with some of the veteran guys that we have, even with some of the younger guys like Khalil Ware.
as well. And Kuzma, I feel like it's just going to be a lot of learning for these guys. And I think of high success for these guys. And, I'm excited to kind of see the impact that they're able to have. But no, I think 2 great picks. I feel like we haven't had a decent draft in quite a while. So it's kind of nice knowing that our picks are going to be used well and hopefully, obviously, but going to be used and just kind of have that hopeful success for them moving forward this season, then obviously in seasons to come.
Yeah, and again, Milwaukee, just like I said before, when they had Giannis, it was like, okay, we're contending every year. These draft picks are not going to help us, so we're not really we're gonna draft these guys, kind of knowing that they're probably not going to stay for too long, because if somebody better comes along, or there's a veteran player that comes along, we're going to trade them. And I think Milwaukee now is in a position to where they're like, okay, we're not contending this year. We can relax. We can develop these guys.
Mm-hmm.
If we're bad the next 4 to 5 years, so be it. But I mean, you see OKC's model, where everybody's like, oh God, are they ever going to turn? Is Sam Presti ever going to turn this around? And for how many great players he had with Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Serge Ibaka. And then you kind of get the second iteration of, okay, we got a lot of rebuilding players here. But those players turned into Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, who I know wasn't drafted by OKC, was involved in the Kawhi Leonard deal. And then you had Chet Holmgren. And then you had a lot of good young pieces there. That's where for me it just turns into, geez Louise, they could, OKC now is one of the best teams in the NBA because of they stayed patient, they stayed the course, and now you see what they look like. That could be the same thing for Milwaukee, where they could be bad for several years before they're back into a contention window. But if John Horst does everything right, and if ownership does everything right, Milwaukee's, that deer district's going to be full again.
Yeah, and I feel like with the route that they've been taking, again, with the picks, you easily could have gone with Jaylen Brown and just kind of went like, all right, let's try to turn it around. But again, getting Jaylen Brown doesn't essentially just put you right into title contention. But no, I feel like with the route that they're taking with the picks, they've gotten, obviously you had the pick last night, but you still have 2 to 3 more from the Heat as well. And honestly, if you flip Tyler Hero for more picks or Kuzma for another pick or so, it's like you just kind of got to stack them up. And who knows, maybe by 2030, they're kind of slowly into that contention, not title contention, but you're kind of you're making the playoffs consistently and moving up year by year. But no, I feel like if again they play their cards correctly, they can easily make this work out like the Thunder. Maybe not exactly the same as the Thunder, just because they didn't get 500 picks from the Paul George trade. But no, I still feel like with getting that 13th pick and just being able to kind of build that draft capital back up for the next few seasons, I feel like it's definitely going to be super helpful, and just being able to kind of see who fits best, especially if they start dumping guys like Gary Trent, KPJ, Kuzma, Taurean Prince, and guys like that. So we'll kind of see how that works out for them.
So, Evan, you got anything else?
No, let the rebuild begin. I feel like there's going to be, unfortunately, I feel like there's going to be a lot of people who Bucks fans, quote unquote, who kind of disappear now that Giannis is gone, which is super unfortunate. Just because, again, seeing this rebuild and being able to kind of watch these young guys develop, I feel like is always a fun part with the rebuild as well. Been talking to friends, I've seen more bad Bucks basketball than I have seen good Bucks basketball, I feel like, in my over 20 years of watching the sport. So it's nothing new. Again, we got a championship out of it. A lot of people will never be able to see that for their team. So I can't complain with that. It's a whole new Bucks team and a whole new Bucks future. And I don't know. I'm excited to kind of see where everything goes and pans out for them.
I know everybody's like, oh, Giannis is leaving. People ask me how I felt about it. It's like, dude, I watched the Bucks when Giannis was our top draft. When Joe Alexander was our top, when Monte Ellis and Brandon Jennings were cornerstones of our franchise. Trust me, I'll be fine.
Yep.
Like I would like if they're better than the 13-win Bucks team from like the 2013 to 14 season, yeah, I'll be fine.
I will be. Yep.
Trust
I will
me.
survive.
I've seen like for many years the Bucks were just mediocre. Giannis helped turn us into, title contenders each and every year. Now it's going to kind of be like what? Now it's kind of going to be kind of like what I was growing up. Hopefully they're going to play in out of this, but if they don't, I mean, I'll be fine.
See, before we go, I feel like there is a chance where the Bucks do better than last year, and I think can still hover with that play-in team. I still feel very confident that this is not just going to be like, again, they're winning 20 games and they just suck. I feel like with the vets that they got from the Heat, I still feel like are going to make a bigger impact than people kind of expect. So I can see them being that play-in team in their rebuild, which is great because then you still get that playoff feel. So I feel like this rebuild is not going to be what people expect it to be now that the play-in is a factor. If you're fighting for that play-in team, you're still getting that playoff atmosphere, that playoff experience. Now, it's not no Eastern Conference Finals playoff experience, but it's still that pressure of fighting to stay alive. So I feel like they are still going to compete for the play-in, and it's going to be a lot more interesting than people, I think, truly expect. But no, it'll still be interesting just to kind of see like who's going to be that next guy to run the franchise, essentially.
Yep. So, all right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this edition of the Milwaukee Bucks on Tap podcast. And I mean, honestly, we'll see you guys when we see you because these are probably the two biggest decisions Milwaukee had to make. They're made, and now probably get ready for the regular season.